today I thought it would be fun to look at some ways that Irish and American pubs are different and distinct from one another, and also we can look at a little bit about how they're the same. I feel like I structured that sentence funny, but I'm just gonna keep going. Some of the funniest videos that I've shot when I have been to America have been the videos I did in Irish pubs in America.
I'm getting rained on.
I really enjoyed these experiences, and there's stuff I want to do more when I get to travel again, which unfortunately is not possible right now because while America has been making major headway with the whole panorama, we are not making as speedy headway, but we're getting there in Europe. I do think that pubs in America and pubs in Ireland are very different to one another, and I think the attitude toward them is very different too, so we're going to have a look at that today. Right now, the biggest difference is that American bars are open. Irish pubs have been closed for nearly a full year. Thanks, COVID. Today's video is brought to you by one of my favorite sponsors, that is Surfshark. Surfshark is an app and browser extension that allows you to place your phone anywhere in the world and access your device as if you were in that country. It lets you access and unblock websites and content that you may not usually be able to see. It also adds an extra layer of security when you're online to keep all of your passwords, photos, videos, etc. safe. You definitely don't want anyone to get access to that photo you took of the pimple on your arse because, you know, you wanted to check it was okay. It's not okay. Go to the doctor. I recently used Surfshark to access the new Friends special that is not available outside of America, just bits and bobs that dribbled onto YouTube. And I have access to 15 different Netflix libraries, so there's no losing there. It always helps this channel when you check out my sponsors, and Surfshark gives you a really good incentive to do so. If you use the code Diane, they will give you 83% off plus 3 extra months for free. Thank you, Surfshark, for supporting this channel, and on with the video. So the first big difference is that America has more of a bar scene than a pub culture. Yes, pubs exist in America, but pubs are more prevalent in Ireland than they are in America. In Ireland, we also have super pubs that have access to TV screens and stuff, but nothing like the ones that you have in America, where every corner of the pub has a different sport on a different TV screen. There seems to always be a league going on in America. American bars are usually populated by people who are rowdy and loud, and it's kind of a cultural event that you've gone to a bar. Whereas in Ireland, Irish pubs and bars are just populated all the time. It's just part of our culture. You can go there at any time of day. You can be part of a family. There'll usually be a playground there for your kids. See, in Ireland, we tend to go to a pub by default rather than a coffee shop. Coffee shops got kind of big when Friends came out and there was coffee shops popping up all over the place, but now they've kind of disappeared again. Irish pubs rather than bars tend to be more quiet, relaxing spaces. You could go there for a lunchtime meeting for work. Irish people freely go to the pub during the day with their laptop to work. There's no judgment there about it. And the building of a pub is usually part of its charm. The pub may have been around since the 15th century. A pub may have belonged to the same family that whole time. And yes, we have bars, but those are kind of more polished places, nightclub, nightlife-y type things, or else they're connected to hotels. Something we do have in common is the fact that women were not welcome in pubs or bars in America or Ireland for a really long time. I feel like it's worth mentioning here that in America, a lot of cities passed blue laws. So women were not allowed into bars in those cities by themselves, or they were assumed to be prostitutes, but there was no national law sanctioned. The difference is that in Ireland, it was an international law. Women were not allowed to be in pubs unchaperoned by men. In America, the establishments themselves could lay out these rules, and in 1969, some women took a stand against that. A lady named Betty Friedan took a stroll into a New York pub along with a bunch of her feminist pals. At that time, in this pub, women were excluded from being in the pub by themselves from noon until 3, lest they distract the men making business deals.
Oh, we're so distracting with our turns and our ladylike ways.
The women went in and held up signs telling them to wake up now, and their table was slowly removed by the maitre d'. So, yeah. On the flip side, in Ireland in the 1970s, women were not allowed to order pints because they were considered unfeminine.
Well, that's very unfeminine, my dear.
Some pubs wouldn't even admit women at all, and some ladies who thought that this wasn't okay was Nell McCafferty and her buddies. So she and the women went into a Dublin pub and ordered 31 brandies. When all the brandies were poured and sitting on the bar, they then ordered 1 pint and were refused. So they drank all the brandies and left without paying. They made a stand. Interestingly now, a lot of companies, including Guinness, are trying to target women with the half pint to have a more ladylike approach to the pint in modern times. If I want a pint, I'm just gonna get a pint, you know? To this day, there are still pubs in Ireland that when a woman walks in, they are looked at like they have two heads, like they shouldn't be there. But those are mostly back arse of nowhere pubs where everybody's just a bit behind the times. Girls, if you want to go for a drink, go for a drink. If I want a pint, I'm going for a pint. I don't care what anyone says. And the next interesting thing is to do with the hours that people frequent them. As I said, a lot more Irish people tend to go to the pub or a bar during the day. However, in Ireland, pubs are legally only allowed to serve until 12 p.m. However, if you're a local or you're among locals, don't fret, just sit tight. The lights will flash, signifying last orders, but if you hang on in there, you're probably going to get part of a lockdown. It is, of course, illegal and risky to do this, so it's only really offered to people that the owners trust. Don't be surprised if you're not a local, you're shuffled out before the lock-in and the locals are sitting tight. And when it comes to bars and nightclubs, people in Ireland stay out way later than their American counterparts. Now, I gotta say, I'm kind of on a par with the Americans. 2 a.m. is kind of my cutting off point. However, my friends will stay out until 6, 7, even 8 a.m. in the morning. That's just a weekend activity for young Irish people. And I'm often told by going home at 2:30 a.m. that I can't hack the sesh. So, I can't hack the sesh. American weddings tend to wrap up a lot earlier, which is fine, because then the next day they usually have breakfast. Irish people do have the breakfast the following morning, but it's a mess usually. You'll collectively have a group breakfast. Some people will still be drunk, some people will be hanging, but it's all a bit of crack, you know? The next one is very obvious, but I'm putting it here for posterity. I'm putting it here for the record. In Ireland, the legal drinking age is of course 18. In America, it is 21. However, in Ireland, you are allowed to drink around a member of your family if you're supervised. And if you're over the age of 25, people should not ID you. In America, it is not uncommon to be ID'd, even if you look well over the drinking age. And I'm still not 100% clear on this. I get people don't want to risk their licenses, but if somebody looks like they're in their 60s and they're getting ID'd, I do think that's wild. Next up, tabs. Tabs don't happen as much in Ireland. You will pay for your drink there and then. When you go into a pub, you will sit down, one person will go up to the bar and start the rounds. I've talked about rounds here before on the channel. They are a huge point of respect in Ireland. You must understand the round. If you don't know how to understand a round, go to any one of the videos that I put up on the end screen. In America, people will commonly open a tab, and that means that at the end, you pay for your drinks. You put your card behind the bar and then you pay for your drinks at the end. This would be obviously really hard to keep track of with rounds, so fair enough. Usually, if you don't pay for your drinks when you're making your order, the receipt will be brought down to you and you'll have to settle that before you order your next round. I have seen people request to open a tab before and it can be done, but it's just very unusual. Pubs just don't like doing it in Ireland. Next up, as I said, in Ireland you will go up to the bar and place your order. Table service is not typical unless you're in one of those super pubs that we talked about. Those are probably most commonly found in Dublin, Cork, Galway. But if you do go up to the bar and place your order and they say they'll bring it down to your table, it's usually brought down to you by a pretty young person who's in their first job. It's a lot of people's first job is doing table service at a pub. This is one of those times when tipping can come in. In Ireland, you might give them €1 or something for bringing your drinks down. There's no percentage though.
All workers in Ireland are required to be paid a minimum wage of €10.20 per hour, so it won't be the only thing that they make.
In America, it's way more complicated. You go up to the bar, you have your tab or you place your order, and for every drink you have to give a percentage of your drinks total, which is totally fine if you're used to it in America, but as a tourist, it's complicated. How much is my drink? Just tell me and include the tip. It's so confusing. I get it, if you're American, it's not confusing because you've grown up around it, but no, it's hard to keep track of. Also then in America, a lot of places, when you do the tipping thing, you get a free drink, which is cool. So I'm in favor of the free drink.
Free! Free! Free!
By the way, in some parts of Europe, when you eat your meal, you'll be brought free shots afterwards. So it's cool. They do that here in Spain.
It's actually a liqueur, not shots, uncultured swine.
And the number one big difference between pubs and bars in America and ones in Ireland is the dive bar. Now, I really needed some clarification on this because I asked recently, is a dive bar an insult to the business? I'd say a handful of you got back to me and you said that a dive bar is not a nice thing to call an establishment, but to be honest, to me the dive bar sounds pretty cool, so I'd love a little bit more clarification on what a dive bar is. It kind of sounds a lot more like an Irish pub, so yeah. Anyway, I hope you found that interesting. I hope you enjoy a couple of pints this weekend, male or female, and I'll see you on the other side. Bye. Something we do have in common is I do think that pubs in America and pubs in Ireland are very different from another. I do think that pubs in America and pubs in Ireland are very different to one another, and the attitude. But if you do go up to the bar and place your order, and they say that they'll bring the drink. But if you do go up to the bar and place your order, they will usually have. Oh, good job. Oh yes, get mommy shock.